Doo-doo-doo. Hi. Ooh, yeah, these are filthy. Oh my God. I can't see, but okay. Hey, it's Daniyah. Thanks again for coming back to my channel. Um, if you're new here, welcome to the garden. Um, I wanted to do this video because one, I'm excited that my third poetry book, and this is a poetry collection. So it has some poems from my first two books, but it also has poems that I've written since then. And this did not start as a poetry book. So self-love is an act of worship, is a mantra that I channeled, honestly, in 2020. And this was really early in my spiritual awakening. And one second, I feel really called over. My allergies are gonna be like, oh, that's how you keep feeling froggy. Anyway, so um, I wrote this blog about self-love. And I think I was really early in my journey. I had just started the Goddess Gathering, and it just came to me, self-love is an act of worship. And what that really means is we are all an aspect of the Creator. We're all an aspect of the Most High. And so we ourselves, being aspects of Source, when we take care of ourselves, when we love ourselves, when we nurture ourselves, when we affirm ourselves, we're essentially affirming God within ourselves. We're essentially acknowledging that divine presence within us. We ourselves are an altar to the divine. And that's how the whole thing goes, is self-love is an act of worship. You are an altar to the divine. And you are. Everything about you, how you move, is a tribute to the Creator, because you are an aspect of the Creator. You're one of the Creator's creations. So everything you do in life gives honor to that, including loving yourself, loving on yourself. You're literally loving God's creation. And when I wrote that blog, that was a really powerful sentiment, and it has stuck with me. Like, it's kind of been a cornerstone of my business, my practice, my journey. And so initially, I just thought I was going to write a book about myself. And I started writing, and then I kind of hit a wall and I stopped. And then I decided to write. One moment, never mind. One second. So I am sitting there, and I'm like, I want to go back to the book and things like that. And I don't know, I was just hitting a wall, and I couldn't get it fleshed out like I wanted to. And I can't tell you when I decided to put the poems together. I really can't. I can't remember. I have to go back in my journal and look. But I just one day was just like, I need to put these poems together. And as I started putting them together, I realized they were telling my story. And then I was like, oh. And I think it was probably when I wrote the poem Self-Love is an Act of Worship that it all, I think, really came together. So I ended up arranging the poems with what I had already written about my life, and essentially continued and carried the story throughout. So this new book is both a collection of my work as well as a memoir of my life told through my art. And today, um, a message that I got watching one of the people I watch on YouTube was around being honoring your journey, like really acknowledging how far you've come, how far you've grown. And I was like, okay. So what I decided to do, sorry, I'm looking at my son, the hallway. I looked and I pulled out the journals from early in my journey. And so this is the first one. And it says challenge, inspire, hope, and love. And it's kind of what it ended up being. Initially, I started using it like I was going to do something for work. And it just ended up turning into a journal. So initially, I just was writing, like learning about crystals is in here, ideas for bracelets were in here. Um, the first pick a card, oh man. Yeah, if I watch the pick a card, all of the notes are in here. All the early readings I was watching are all in here. And then I can kind of see where I started to develop. I got some nice spreads in here. My own spreads. Um, and oh my goodness, this is wild. So this right here, I don't know if you can see it, but these are the notes that birthed this journal. Right here, it says a book of shadow, areas of spirituality, and I've written a bunch of notes. And then I eventually published, so this is under my pseudonym, Nia Shalom, but I have a beginner's book of light and shadow. So a book of shadows is essentially like your handy dandy notebook. It's where you're writing, where you're learning. It's your learning book. And so as I was writing and taking all these notes, I was like, I really want a space to do this in a way where it's easier to keep track of stuff. So this is what I was doing in this book. I didn't really start journaling, like journaling my journey, apparently till like late April. So for it to be April and I'm coming back to it is really, and oh my goodness, this is so wild. So I have a schedule here for how to organize myself and include a spiritual practice because I did not have one. And wow. And like I was just really just mapping it out. It's so crazy because like I'm taking time off next week to essentially do the same thing. Saying like what it is that I need to do to make a better schedule for my life and my business. And it's just really interesting how far I've come. And oh man, like there's even like me wondering about my sons. My it's just really interesting. Like I'm sorry, I could see where I'm journaling about the end of my marriage and trying to figure out oh, this is wild. Oh my God. So I was really trying to get an altar built. And in May of 2020, I was trying to figure out who I needed to put on my altar. And what's really funny is the Yemaya is who kept coming up for me. And I even see in some dreams and like meditations, I kept seeing like blues and I kept seeing yellows. It's so wild. Like there's so many things in here that I forgot. There's just really a lot of things that I forgot. And it's just interesting to see, me first, putting the water beside under the bed for when I'm dreaming. And oh man. Oh my goodness, that's that. This is so wild. On Mother's Day of 2020. So Mother's Day of 2020, I remember this because the Jill Scott and Erica Badu versus was like before, and it was just a vibe. It was so beautiful. Um, so I was meditating. I remember this. I was sitting and I was meditating, and I was just sitting and I visualized myself pulling a card, and it was Oshun. And so I went to where I get my skincare product. Shouts out to Juices 706. And she blessed me with some Oshun soap. And her niece was there, and her niece's name is Yemaya. And I was just like, and so in my journal, I was like, was this a sign? It's just cool to like see that, and then now looking at the orishas that I have already received and how messages work and things like that, it's just been really cool. So this book is a journey, and it's a story of me. I want to quote the forward in the book in the worst possible way, because there's two forwards in my book, and the latter one, before you actually get into the book, really just like beautifully, both are lovely forwards, but that, oh my God, like emotions. And but I think one of the lines that I can share is that, not verbatim, is basically it's a journey of watching a Black woman discover that she's her place in the universe, and that she's always been a goddess. And that's really what it is. I talk about, as much as I, it's not deep, deep, but I do go into my childhood. I go into sexual trauma. I go into self-esteem issues. I go into reclaiming my sexuality. I go into my spiritual awakening, or at least a part of it where I knew that's what was happening anyway. And throughout the book are weaved all of these poems, these beautiful allegories to illustrate my mindset, my energy, my walk, my thought processes. I, briefly touch on the passing of my firstborn son, and it's really, I'm so proud of it. Honestly, I'm really, really proud of it. I looked at it, I'm just like, I have a lot of poems, and what's wild is I still didn't put them all in the book. I still have so many poems, some that will never go in the book, but I still have so many that I have not shared openly with anyone. And my intention with this book is, one, for it to be an enjoyable read. It's my poetry, it's my art, it's my craft. And always my first intention is for you to enjoy it, always. I would say my next intention is for it to inspire. Um, I don't always give credit for how much stuff I've gone through. And to be able to reflect back on that and see, I'm sitting here doing a YouTube video, when in that book, I can remember a time where I couldn't look at myself, and being able to do that is huge for me, huge. I'm also not the most, I do public speaking well, but leading up to that moment, I'm doing some work to allow that to happen. So I hope it inspires you to know that your past is not the whole story, that your wounds will lead to your wisdom, that your moments that you felt like a victim were actually moments leading to your victory. I hope that you feel encouraged on your journey, encouraged to keep going, encouraged to take um, take a moment and be proud of yourself. And I hope you feel empowered to take inspired action, empowered to dive into your passions, and empowered to want to know more about your purpose and your place. And when people say purpose, I feel like people want to say this grandiose thing. And for some of us, it is grandiose. And for some of us, it's being a comedian and making people laugh. It's playing football and bringing joy to all those people in the stadium. It's doing music. It's doing hair and making people feel beautiful. All of these things are, if it was it's a passion and you felt it deep in your being and feel called to do it and you lose yourself in doing it, chances are it's tied to your purpose. So do that. Um, so I hope that you really, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Take a moment, enjoy it. Um, for some of you, you're gonna laugh because there is a whole page in the book where I say, at this point, at this point, if you are parents of mine, an elder family member, you can just skip this whole section. This whole part right here is not for you. I need you to scoot on past that. But I enjoyed putting it together. I was really impressed about how many poems I had, and thought that I was like, dang, if I had kept every poem I ever wrote, how many would I have? I'm curious to see how many more I write. Some of the poems I wrote about tarot cards, so there's some tarot card interpretations done as poems. The other day I was thinking, like, you know what? Somebody really could use it for bibliomancy. So that is also intention. Like, if you're having a day, just open a book to a page and you'll probably get what you need in that moment. I'll proactively apologize for any and all tears that come as a result of reading. Like, apparently, it's funny, somebody who has my book and somebody else was reading it and like, were you reading Dee's book again? And they were like, yeah, because they were crying. And so I'm just like, still like every time. So proactive apologies for any tears, but um, I hope that you find yourself somewhere in the story. I hope you find yourself in the pages. I hope you find peace. I hope you find inspiration, encouragement, joy, laughter. And it's not the end of my story. It's not even the whole story, but it is a very powerful story. So it's available on Amazon. The link is in the description box or in the bio if you're coming from Instagram. And thank you again for watching. Have a great day. Bye.